So I just watched a film called LUZ or Lose, and it's really late. It's really late for a movie like this. This is one of those kinds of movies you watch and you know you have a lot to say, but you're not really sure what those words are. This is a bizarre ass movie, man. A description. This is such a hard movie to discuss spoiler free and give a review on, because who do you recommend a movie like this to? To say, oh, everyone should watch it, that is just not accurate. I don't know if almost any movie like that exists. There's a few, but for the most part, almost every film has its audience. So to say that no one should watch this would be outrageous. It's a film that's going to have a very niche audience. It's extremely style over substance, although of course with these kinds of pretentious, and when I say pretentious, I mean this with quotations here, because there will be a lot of people who watch this and see this as pretentious, artsy-fartsy nonsense. But if you wanted to dive deeper into the subtext or the metaphors or what the director was really trying to say, of course you could do that. So some would argue that there's plenty of substance here if you want to break it down, but just kind of on that first watch and taking it at a surface level, it is extremely style over substance. Now, if you would have told me this movie was made in the 70s, I would have believed you 100%. Like, this feels like 70s, 80s Italian cinema, but very, very artsy. The plot is extremely hard to describe, because the movie only comes in at like 70 minutes. It's a German film, so there's subtitles. It's on VOD right now for like $4 or $5 on Vudu and other. That's where I rented it, but I think it's on like Amazon. It's an experimental, bizarre flick, and honestly, I had a hard time figuring out what the hell was going on at times and not really knowing if there was anything going on. I know that there's a young bartender, there was a young taxi driver, and she ends up at a police station, and then she's recounting the events of what happened through hypnosis, and there's a possession involved, and it just gets super, super bizarre. I mean, way out there. If you're into extremely unique style over substance, 1970s Italian type flicks, this is absolutely up your alley. It looks like it was made. As I said, it came right out of that era. The grain on the screen, the lighting, just the bizarre nature of it all. It resembles a film of that time. So if you are a fan of that kind of stuff, that's who I recommend it to. I recommend it to almost no one else. If this was on a Shudder or a Netflix or something, throw it on for 5 or 10 minutes and see if it's your thing. There's going to be long, like, stationary shots of dialogueless scenes of a girl buying like a soda in real time and then sitting there and drinking it. It'll bore the shit out of people. There will be a lot of people who are like, this is trash, this is garbage. And then there will be, of course, those people who think that this is a masterpiece. So this is why reviewing films like this for me is so difficult, because you're supposed to just say whether a movie's good or bad. And that's just bullshit. That's just not how things work. Every movie has its audience. Regardless, every movie you saw that you thought was terrible, there's someone out there who thinks it's really good or loves it. That's just the way things go. And for this kind of movie, I was watching it the whole time and I was just like, the fuck am I watching and who am I going to recommend this to? How am I going to review this? The imagery, the use of the camera, the acting is freaking top notch, man. It's they ask these actors to really give it their all and get weird and I feel like they got the perfect cast for this. There's a lot of what the fuck moments. It's definitely horror, but as far as like gore and stuff like that goes, I don't think there's any. Um, and the production value is solid because they're trying to look like it was made at this certain time in this certain period, and they're trying. So it nails what it's going for sure. It's very dreamlike. It feels like a nightmare most of the time. Um, you're almost like in a drug-induced coma witnessing this nightmarish imagery and are so confused on what the fuck is going on. And I have a decent idea of what was happening in this if I really wanted to try to sit down. This would be a great film to watch with friends. I don't do drugs, but I'm sure drugs might also help, but I don't do drugs. So sitting down, watching this with friends who are into anything, and especially kind of more artsy films, more experimental films, and then to just sit after and maybe have a glass of wine or something. This already sounds pretentious as fuck, and I've already lost like most of the people watching this. I don't care. I want you to know what kind of audience I'm talking to here. This is that kind of audience that would sit down with their friends and just be like, okay, so what do you think's happening here? And what was going on with her? And why did he do this? And when this shot was doing this and this and this and transitions back and forth, what was the director's intention? Were they just being weird to be weird? I do think that there is a story or a purpose or a subtext or something to take from this, and I do think that there's going to be multiple different interpretations of what the hell you're watching here. It's a fucking weird movie, man. But as I said, it's only 70 minutes long. If it sounds like your kind of thing, check it out. If it doesn't, avoid it like a fucking plague because you'll hate it. This is definitely a movie a lot of people will hate, but the target audience may fall in love with this flick. So shout out to Travis Gillespie, who watched this before me and kind of warned me in advance of what kind of flick I was getting myself into. But like him, I didn't even tell you what I thought about the movie. That's why it's so hard. I'm not really sure how I feel. I will say I really was enjoying some of it, and then other parts I was very bored with. But the film has just style oozing from the screen. The director knew what he wanted and he got it. It's a wild ride. It's a wild ride. Sometimes it's boring. Sometimes it's a kick in the face. Sometimes it's all over the place for me. And I'm glad I watched it. I am. I did find myself entertained more than I didn't. And I'm open to most things. So I'm glad it was 70 minutes. I will say that. If this would have tried to stretch on for another 20, 30 minutes or something, I think it would have lost me. But coming in at the 70-minute mark, it still feels like 90. So it's a good thing it was 70. And I'll be very curious to hear what you guys think, or you probably have already seen it. Almost anyone who's visiting this either is just a fan of my channel and is just like, what the fuck is this? Or if you found this kind of just searching, you've already seen this and you're sitting here, critiquing me or being like, yeah, that's exactly how I felt too. Like, I don't know how the hell I would talk about this movie. It's a tough one, but let me know if you watch it. Let me know if this is kind of flick. And I know a couple buddies that will dig this. So I'm gonna see if they've seen it. All right. Adios.